Hey everyone, welcome to One for the Dagger podcast, Feathered Flow, and the worst show in Chicago. I am Daniel, and I got my co-host here, Tommy.
What's going on?
And we have the Scott Foster of podcast guests today, being Clay. You want to tell everybody your Twitter handle?
At CBSwallow_52.
Yeah, I probably should have looked that up prior, but I honestly totally forgot. And then we hit record, so here we are. But yeah, he came. He was kind enough to come in extremely last minute to fill in for Johnny, who had to go pick up his girlfriend from work. So we're flying in 3-man formation today, and boy, do we got a lot of shit to talk about. Well, sort of. I mean, the first game of the season, it was a rough one. Everybody looked fucking horrible, for lack of a better word. But there was one glaring omission from the roster that I couldn't help but notice pretty much all game. And for those of you who follow me on Twitter, you probably know exactly who that is. And of course, I'm talking about Mr. Adam Boqvist. I really don't know why he's not with this team at this point. I hyped him up all summer. You know, my hype and validation doesn't mean shit to the Blackhawks. But you got to look at things objectively, because Boqvist brings something that the Hawks lack pretty much immediately, and you won't really get it back once you have Haan and Murphy in the lineup, whether you like it or not. Boqvist is the most agile, dynamic, and fastest skater that the Hawks would have on the blue line. His vision's unparalleled. His hands are amazing. His shot is fast. He can flip the ice. He can skate himself out of trouble. He doesn't score on his own fucking net. And quite frankly, for all the bitching that I do, really my frustration was only compounded by the fact that the rest of the defense looked so bad. All game, it was awful. They couldn't slap their ass with either hand. It was really just kind of frustrating to watch, even game 1 of the season, just because we saw these problems, you know, very, very present over the last two seasons, is what I mean by that. But I guess I just wanted to explore that a little more. Like, do you guys see Boqvist coming up into the lineup immediately, especially if, you know, Haan or Murphy gets back even? Tommy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I mean, he should have made the team from the start, right? We talked about that. Everyone's talked about that. Like, he should be here already. But I think, like, you watched the way the game went the other day, and I think it's just even more obvious that they should call him up, because, like you mentioned, they don't have somebody of his skill set on the blue line. As much as they want to try and push that Gustafsson is a good offensive defenseman who can move the puck and he can skate and all that, like, he can't really do it at all. Boqvist would fill a hole there, and we wouldn't get as much Slater Cuckoo. So I think that's a win for everyone. I think he should be on the team right now.
Yeah, and the thing is, even if you do want to kind of peddle Gustafsson as your offensive defensive guy, we all know he can't play defense. That's a given.
Right.
But the thing is, what it boils down to is really he's just a power play specialist, and that kind of ties into the fact that you mentioned he can't skate at all.
Not at all. No.
Pretty fucking awful. He's slow. Clay, did you have any thoughts on Boqvist not being up?
Well, first of all, I can't agree more that Slater Cuckoo shouldn't be on this team. I'm not convinced he should be on the AHL roster. I'm so sick and tired of watching him just be an absolute train wreck in his own end. And it's not like he has any offensive upside to give. You know, Gus, they love him on the power play, and as far as a power play quarterback, he's pretty good at it. But other than Gus, I don't see a better offensive defenseman on our team. I mean, Gus isn't close to Adam Boqvist's potential, obviously, but I don't understand, and it makes me so mad because it brings back what they did with Jokiharju. They kept him in Rockford after he was probably our best defenseman for every game he played as a 19-year-old. As a 19-year-old.
And that kind of brings me to the next point. I've gotten some pushback about Boqvist. People don't see the point of why he should be brought up, mostly because there's the very, very, I hate to say this for lack of better terminology, but very narrow-minded view that we somehow believe that he is a cure-all to this blue line, which I don't think anybody in their right mind would actually think. Boqvist is not a cure-all. He's not Nick Lidstrom. He's not a defensive stalwart yet. I mean, he could be. I mean, I doubt it, but you never know with these fucking kids. He's 19. He could, pull something out of his ass. But, for now, no, he is not. He's not a cure-all. He's not anything more than a dynamic puck mover on the blue line. But that's just the thing, is he is so good. He is so good at what he does. With what he provides offensively, he needs to be getting NHL reps right now. Not just because, we don't have anybody on the blue line that can't do it. But I mean, fuck, you look at this. I mean, is spinning his tires down in Rockford really going to do anything? Is dunking on fucking AHL swill going to do anything for him? And I understand that the AHL is a little bit more clutch and grab, dump and chase. But at the same time, like, why would you not put your best defensive prospect that you've had in God knows how many years? God knows how many years.
Yeah, I mean, he should be playing now. And going back to like Cuckoo and all, like, I don't want to dunk on him too hard. I don't think he's like terrible. I think he's a perfectly fine 7th or 8th. That if you need him to step in and play 15 to 20 games a year, I think that's perfectly reasonable.
At like 15 minutes a night too, yeah.
Right. But to have him right now as a top 6 option, I mean, it's not good enough. And but going back to Boqvist and his ability to move the puck, like, another thing too is I'm on the power play. I mean, maybe we'd get rid of some of the stupid pushing back entries if he's gotten to the line of now to the power play. That'd be something that I'd be looking forward to.
They tried that with him in the preseason. I very vividly remember him getting up to the red and blue line and basically just flinging a puck into the zone for somebody else to go get. So I don't know if they'll go do away with the pushing back entry entirely.
I'm so tired of that. Like,
it's fucking awful. And this is a kid where if he did just kind of defy Colleton, which would be hilarious considering he'd be getting it from both ends, a 19-year-old and the 35-year-old red ass and Duncan Keith, who, by the way, should not be on the power play as well, and
was terrible the other day.
And was horrible. Oh my God. We'll get to him in a minute. But no, Boqvist, if he comes up, I feel like he exceeds expectations almost right away. I'm not going to say he's going to, blow the doors off anybody. But the thing is, if you're comparing him directly to a guy like Gustafsson, which a lot of people do, you accept the mistakes that Boqvist brings because he's 19. Eric Gustafsson is 27 or 28 years old, and he can't defend. The only utilization he has on this team is to make sure that pucks get to the net, which is a good thing, on the power play with Patrick Kane.
Right, and that power play still goes through Kane. Like, that exactly. All goes through. So, I mean, he's fine for that purpose, but he should have been traded last year. Like, such an easy decision.
Hey, I mean, I don't know if you saw, as of the date we're recording this, which is October 6th, Winnipeg had a game tonight where they dressed Ville Heinola on the top pair with Neil Pionk, who just got acquired from the Rangers, and I think the average age between them is about 20 years old. And that's because Josh Morrissey went down, and the rest of their blue line was made up of Carl Dahlstrom, Dmitry Kulikov. Oh man, that blue line was ugly. And I even looked up the stats after the game, and they performed actually pretty admirably considering there's no way that they were gonna win with that blue line. There's absolutely no way, especially not with a Barzal-led Islanders team. But
yeah, for as much as we want to talk about how bad the Blackhawks defense is, it could be worse. Example A.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me, I had to take a little bit of a breath there. But no, it's truly bad. I mean, if you were trying to find a trade partner for Gustafsson, I'd say in the immediate future, Winnipeg is probably it, because their blue line is genuinely worse than the Blackhawks. I'm feeling it's genuinely worse than Chicago's defense. I don't know. I know, Tommy, you've seen it, but Clay, I don't know what your eyes have seen.
Way too much of Winnipeg, honestly. Yep. I mean,
I agree with that.
Yeah, well, I had a conversation with somebody on Twitter the other day. They listed their division predictions, and they listed Winnipeg in third. Josh Morrissey is their only defenseman out of their top 5 that's there. Trouba gone, Myers gone, Bufflin, who the hell knows what he's doing?
Yeah, he might not be back. No,
which makes me sad. I mean, I love Buff, but division foe getting worse. I can't be too mad at that.
No, with that blue on, there's no fucking way they finish top 3 in that division. No way.
No.
Here's an interesting thing I wanted to propose about the Hawks is, say, Murphy is out for longer than you expect, and then Haan goes down. He's still, his arm's falling off or whatever his problem is that week. And I love the guy, but man, it just does not seem like he can stay healthy at all. They were suspicious that that he wouldn't be able to make it for the opener, which he didn't. And now there doesn't really seem to be that much of a new timetable for his return, which seems to be, I've heard everything from, a week or two in mid-September to, mid-November, which is a pretty wide gamut for error, is it not?
Yeah, I was under the assumption that he'll be back for the home opener on Thursday, just based off the fact that they sent Gilbert down before they even got back from Prague. I just assumed that meant that he would be good to go for Thursday, but maybe not.
Yeah, I haven't heard much word yet, but then again, we have the whole rest of the week to kind of find out. The question I did want to pose, though, was if this blue line goes tits up, which it easily could, because you look at it up and down, the guys who are going to be logging regular minutes are Keith Gustafson, Mata Seabrook, and then eventually Haan and Murphy. And so when one of those people goes down, it just kind of makes you wonder. Yeah, and one of them will, almost certainly, especially one of the older veterans like Keith or Seabrook, because, I mean, that mileage is going to do them in at some point. You just feel it in your bones. Even if it is just for a stretch of like 5 to 10 games, it's still a very real possibility. Do you just kind of go and throw some of your kids into the fire? Because I really like the idea of Nicolas Baudin, outside of Adam Boqvist, obviously, but Nicolas Baudin being on this blue line. He's kind of a case study of mine last year because I looked at him and he is a really diminutive, like, offensive defender, but he's not really all that flashy, which is something that kind of sets him apart from Boqvist because he's not flashy. He's still really agile. He's got great speed and great vision, but his responsibility with the stick, I think, is a lot greater. I think he's more positionally sound. And to be honest, if there's, a law of averages here, I mean, I'm not saying that Baudin is any more NHL ready than Boqvist or even at the same amount of NHL readiness. But were you to give, a Baudin or a Chris or a Tualola or a Carlson this season, like, why the hell would you not do it? Are we in agreement here?
Yeah, 100%. I think if, like you said, Keith and Seabrook, if they miss some time due to injury, they're getting up there in age. Murphy, with that back injury, like, back injuries don't go away. So, like, he's going to miss time with that this year. It's inevitable. And then Haan is very injury prone. So, I mean, you want him to stay healthy, obviously, but, I mean, it just doesn't look like that's going to happen over the course of an 82-game season. I don't need stopgaps or veteran scrub players filling in games here or there. Like, you need to see what you have in these guys now. So they need to be the first calls.
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
I mean, I really don't have anything against Dennis Gilbert, but holy fuck, man. You make a fucking move like that around the forward, then try and chip it across the boards, like...
Yeah.
And it just goes right on their stick. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to get too upset about, what happened a few days ago, considering everything else in my sports world went wrong. Tommy, congrats to you for the Dodgers actually, getting their head out of their ass. I don't know why you were so worried in the first place, but
that was nice. I was a little worried I was going to have to come on here after a loss, so I'm glad that was avoided.
That's okay. I was too, because this would have been the most depressing shit on earth had they lost and you had to come on here. But no, I would really like to see, the stopgap thing I completely agree with. I don't need to see any more Slater Cuckoo. I really don't care to see Dennis Gilbert all that much because we know what he is. He's basically just Steven Johns 2.0 with not as big a shot as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if you are counting on these guys to be, part of your franchise one day, Chris is 21, Bodan's about to turn 20, Tualola I think is somewhere in there who's 21 or 22. Same with Carlson. I mean, you might as well just give the kids like a few fucking games. They're already under contract. They're burning up years. So I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean you've preached about and bragged about your prospect pipeline the last couple of years, especially on defense. So let's see what you got. I mean, just what do you got? Come up and show us. And if they make a good impression, then there's a good chance they're part of the future. So I think that's definitely the way to go. Getting back to Gilbert really quick, that turnover at the blue line, that can't fucking happen like ever. But other than that, I didn't mind the rest of his game. He had a shift like, I don't know, a few minutes after that where like he had 3 plays that stood out to me like in like back to back to back, where he had a nice hip check at the blue line, separated the guy from the puck, and then he came around the slot, broke up a cross crease pass, and then he blocked a shot, all within probably like 20 seconds. Like I think he did some good things, but that turnover can't happen under any circumstances.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you saw what happened to the last Blackhawk that did, and that was Gustafsson, Game 7 against the Blues.
Oh God, don't.
And we all know how that turned out. And he got banished to the AHL for a couple of years after that. So maybe we'll see Dennis Gilbert again when he's like 25 years old, making a redemption tour.
Didn't he spend like the entire 2017 season in Rockford? Like I don't even think he got a call up.
Nope, I don't think he got a look. Was it really
that was
that
horrid.
long? Yeah, it was 2016-17. He'd never even got a look. He came up in 17-18, right, and put together that very nice little streak towards the end of the year that eventually cascaded into the 60-point season that was. I'm pretty sure that's how it went down, right?
Well, okay, so the turnover was the 2016 playoffs.
Yes.
Yeah, so then he didn't play at all in the 16-17 season. Like he's down. Right. And then he was up a little bit in 17-18 and then 18-19, obviously. But yeah, he spent an entire year banished to Rockford after that Game 7 turnover.
And the thing is, he wouldn't have helped anyway.
Very vividly. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I remember the end of the 17-18 season. It was it was the Scott Foster game where he had I know he had a goal, and I think he had another assist or 2 on the DeBrincat goal. I know. I remember that game so vividly. I don't know why, but so I know that was during that entire season from my memory.
That game was super fucked up. I thought Winnipeg and Line A especially was going to light that guy up for like 50 goals in one game, but
yeah, that was crazy.
I guess I was just going to add, even in 2016-17, Gustafsson wouldn't have been able to help that blue line anyway, considering they had the rotting corpse of Johnny Oduya on that team.
Yeah, and then I was excited for that pickup. That didn't work out, though. That did not work out.
That did kind of suck, but no, he couldn't have helped anyway, just because they eventually got their asses ripped open by the Preds in 4 games, like we know. So just imagine watching bad Eric Gustafsson on that blue line in that series. I don't know, maybe they should have played him because he probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah, that was rough. That was.
So going back to the season opener, the offense was putrid. I actually have some stats pulled up here right now where the worst forward line that played regular top line minutes was the Nylander, Taves, and Kane line, which got absolutely bombarded in their own zone. No fault of really anybody except for the fact that we couldn't clear pucks out of the zone. We just didn't have any possession. I guess you could say that kind of falls on everyone except, for Corey Crawford, who looked, okay. But I mean, fuck. If Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves are in the red for an entire game, you're in trouble. You're definitely in trouble. And the opportunities that the offense did have to capitalize on, like the Nylander goal, for instance, was just immediately ripped away by anything the defense did. You know how King Midas is like the guy, he touches everything, he turns to gold. The Blackhawks blue line, everything they touch just turns to complete shit. And I could not believe my fucking eyes. And I'm sorry for swearing so much, but it really does just bring my piss to a straight up boil when I think about it. We've had these problems for 2 and going on 3 seasons now, and we had the Carleton training camp that was supposed to fix everything. But we go out there in the first game of the season with a defense that they wanted to ice, sans, Murphy and Haan. I mean, I can give them a little bit of leniency for that, but like, what the fuck were we looking at there? Is that what it's going to be like for the rest of the year? I mean, I hope not. I mean,
I hope not. Yeah.
You get 2 really good positionally sound players back into Haan and Murphy, but how much water is going to rush you until the levees just break,
Well, and that's the thing. Yeah, like they were missing a third of their defense, and it was being filled by Dennis Gilbert and Slater Cuckoo. So, like, take that into account for sure. But it's not like when Murphy and Haan come back that they're getting, 2 top pair shut down elite defensemen into the lineup. Like, you're getting 2 pretty good defenders, but they're not. Just like Boqvist isn't going to solve everything, they're not going to solve everything either. So exactly. I think it'll be better. And I definitely think the defense is positioned to be better this year than it has been in a couple of years. But I mean, still probably not good enough. I think we all knew that. I think we acknowledge that while they improve the defense, it's still bad. Like, I think everyone's okay admitting that.
Clay, I wanted to ask you, when Murphy and Haan both do get back together, do you think they log those top pair minutes?
I think Haan. I can compare Haan's game a little bit to Nicholas Hjalmarsson, just because that's who he himself compares his game to. They depend, in my opinion, too much on Murphy. I think he's a decent defenseman. He's good in his own zone, but just like the rest of our blue line, he cannot skate himself out of trouble. And right. Murphy's not a great passer. So if he gets stuck in his own zone, he is not going to be the one to get them out. That's my problem with Murphy. It's been my problem with Murphy. But I think they'll have to be counted on, because I think those 2 may go hand in hand as your second pair to be the quote-unquote shutdown pair.
I'd say so too. If you're going to emulate anything between the Hjalmarsson and Oduya days, or I think Oduya paired with Seabrook at some points too. If you're going to get anywhere close to emulating that, I think they have to play together, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, and by no means am I saying Haan is hammer, but that's who he compared himself to in his very first interview. So he kind of asked for that comparison.
I think you can call him a poor man's Nick Hjalmarsson. I think that's fair. I think
right.
The one thing I do like about Haan's game that I think is actually better than Hjalmarsson's at this point is how well he can play positionally and defensively. But it's not, just that. I'm not so sure if it's just that, or even that. But Murphy, Haan has an ability to take a lot of those dungeon shifts and get really unsheltered starts in his own defensive zone and still really come out on the positive side of the ledger. He doesn't really need to get paired with anybody who's, who needs like a babysitter or anything.
Right.
He's just a really solid all-around guy. Man, I would really hate to see him paired with Seabrook, to be honest, now that I think about it. But no,
Seabrook and Mott are the best D pair in the league, though, so we don't have to worry about that.
Dude, yeah, in the preseason when they're playing against ECHL and AHL players, man, dude, they were so good then. Fuck that. No, I just man, Haan, I think he'll turn some heads.
I'm excited about him.
Yeah, he's not a top pair defender by really any stretch of the imagination, but I think he perfectly mirrors whoever he's playing with in the best sense. Like, he can play with somebody like Boqvist, who, Haan can play center field. Or if Seabrook really, really, really wants to try and be what he once was and jump up in the play, I guess he could play center field for him too. But that's ultimately what it boils down to, is Calvin Haan is a defensive center fielder who is basically going to bail out his partner no matter who he gets paired with. Almost always. I I mean, not so much Murphy, because you're right, he is pretty sound in his own defensive zone. But if there's a guy now that Murphy can pitch the puck to when he's along the boards, because that's one thing he's really good at, it's Haan, so he can make a pass out of the zone and get it to a winger or Taves at center or somebody like that. So I think there is marginal improvement there, but other than that, I don't really see how this defense is doing anything more than just Colton shuffling the deck.
Yeah, I mean,
agree.
I think if you squint at this defense, I think you could see what they were going for with the more defensive side of things, picking up a guy like Olimata, bringing in Haan. But it's still not good enough. But I think Haan and Murphy simply have to take those shutdown minutes based on process of elimination. Who else is going to do it? Because it's not Keith and Gustafson, and it sure as shit isn't Mott and Seabrook. So I think just like they're the two you have left, they're the most logical to do it.
I agree. And I mean, their numbers probably aren't going to look as pretty doing it, but I think they're more than capable. And honestly, if it keeps the puck out of the net, which I hope it will, then please God, and if it even just keeps the puck, just off of getting off of Corey Crawford, as long as pucks just don't get in on him, I'll be perfectly fine. Or Robin Leonard or whoever's in net. Man, they are going to get pounded. And that's kind of where the injury thing kind of sits in the back of my head is a very real possibility for a lot of these defensemen, especially those of Murphy and Haan, is because that with the Colleton system, they're going to be, I mean, it's pretty much all about, protecting the goalie, right? It's about not letting shots get through. It's about covering your man, all that fucking shit. But man, they're going to be blocking shots like wild people, and it's only a matter of time until one of them goes down. And the way that Haan is not like Nick Hjalmarsson is, no matter how bad Hjalmarsson got fucked up, he always got up.
He was a goddamn warrior.
Oh my God, was he ever? But Haan, I mean, it's not to say he's not a warrior. He's still willing to go down and make those sacrifices. But this, I'm really scared about what's going to happen if or when he goes down again, because if that pair is inert for any stretch, like any significant stretch of time during the season, there's going to be like some serious hell to pay in their own zone if even one of those guys is absent. And we saw it with both of them here in this first game.
Yeah.
Wanted to move on a little bit and talk about Corey Crawford a little bit. People seem to be bagging on him already, which I don't really understand. I mean, no, he did not have that inexcusable of a game. He was average at best, I would say. There's a couple goals he had given up that I honestly think he'd like to have back. But at the same time, I don't see how it's anything more than a blip on the radar for a guy like him. I mean, even though he is coming off kind of a questionable head injury history, do you guys really think there's anything to worry about in terms of him, not looking so great in the first game?
Absolutely fucking not. I could not be less worried about Corey Crawford. Like you said, a couple goals that he'd like back, but at the same time, a lot of saves that he made were excellent saves that you could argue probably should have been goals. So it kind of evens itself out. And I would say that there was more of those saves than there were the two goals that I'd say he'd probably like back. The defense wasn't great in front of him. I don't want to blame the ice, but the ice was so obviously in complete shit condition where the puck was just bouncing all over the place. I'm not. It's one game where the defense wasn't very good, where the whole team was pretty terrible after the first period. I'm not worried.
Well, it's actually funny you mentioned that. The reason the Hawks lost, according to the subreddit R Hawks, is because they were jet lagged, despite the fact that they had been there for days, and the Flyers had also made the same trip and also
they were there for like a whole fucking Jesus. No.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I swear to God, it's like putting your fucking brain in a microwave whenever you go into that goddamn hellscape. But anyway, Clay, I wanted to ask you the same questions about Corey Crawford, whether there's reason for concern, because I wanted to follow up with something, but I'll let you answer first.
I don't think so. I'm gonna go along with what you guys said. He didn't look that bad. Like you said, there are a couple of goals that he would like to have back. My thing with Corey Crawford, and I've said this his whole career, he, more than any other goalie I've ever seen, has the ability to make the hard saves look extremely easy and the easy saves look extremely hard. I've noticed that from day one, but the only thing I worry about with Crawford is his injuries, and he, like you guys said, him and Leonard, they're going to get shelled if one piece of this defense is out, whether it be Murphy or Haan. And even when we have our full defense, who knows what it's going to be like, they're still probably going to get shelled. So if we're going to be successful, he's going to have to make 35, 40 saves a night. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be.
I'm just kind of smiling at that vision, not of him or Leonard getting injured or anything, but just of Corey Crawford. I picture this every time, of him just staying up in the locker room and threatening everybody with like a knife or something like that, just in between periods. Because, man, what was that one game last year where they gave up like 60 shots to the Lightning?
Yeah, like 35 of them in one period was like the second period.
Oh my God, that was unbelievable.
That was what, game 5 or 6?
It was pretty
early in the
early.
season.
It was pretty early. Yeah.
It was supposed to be one of the litmus tests to see how the Hawks could hold up in against an elite team, and that was the result. That will never not make me laugh.
They got absolutely, that was brutal. That was embarrassing, dude. Honestly.
Oh man, I kind of chuckle back on it now, but seriously, 60 shots is like a feat, even for the Lightning, who, by the way, lost to Carolina today after getting no shots in their game in the second period. So they're actually like 1-1-1 right now, which is kind of interesting.
They looked horrible tonight.
Did you watch the game?
Yeah, they looked like absolute dog shit. I mean, Carolina was completely controlling the pace of play. Dougie Hamilton had a huge game. Shout out my fantasy team. But, I mean, they looked horrible.
Well, here's the thing. I guess if the Blackhawks were to get, they've gotten some of their, intel, so to speak, from guys like Haan and probably Sarala, maybe, about what kind of game Carolina likes to employ. I'm assuming at some point, it's come up in conversation. One thing I don't really understand is why they haven't tried to employ any of it themselves, considering like Carolina, despite not being the best team on paper all the time, despite the fact, they got a pretty good blue line now. But back then, even when they weren't so good in the last few years, they've still been possession monsters, like almost no matter what. So I don't know why the Hawks have never tried to emulate anything that they do. It's just weird. But no, to get back on track, Corey Crawford, he wasn't great, also wasn't to blame. I feel like more of that blame definitely falls on players who played like Duncan Keith, who we'll get to in a second, because I just wanted to point out the one bright spot that we had in the whole game, and that's the DeBrincat, Strome, and Shaw line looked actually legitimately pretty good, despite Shaw being a complete dumbass and taking a penalty in his own zone again after, I think it was Sanheim was like giving DeBrincat some love taps in the crease. Shaw, just came barreling in, like the hero he is, and started cross-checking away, taking a completely unnecessary penalty. I think that put him on the power play, which got, immediately wiped to 4-on-4 for a little bit. But I do remember, I think the Flyers scored on that sequence, if I do remember correctly. Am I wrong?
Yeah, they scored. They scored on the 4-on-4. Yep.
That's probably one of the goals I'd say Crawford want back. That was the little backhander over the shoulder.
Was that the one where Konechny walked around Keith?
Yeah, which is actually going to be my second point. Was that was a bad goal on Crawford, but the bigger concern there for me was Keith just getting absolutely roasted, like not even looking bothered to give the slightest bit of a fuck out there. So
I promise you we'll get to him in literally 2 seconds. But 12-17-65, something to look out for. It didn't look bad the other night or other day or whatever the hell it is. But I really like the combination of having them together, just because, 12 is a sniper, 17 is the playmaker, and 65 is the puck getter, despite the fact that 65 doesn't have much going on in between his ears like all the time. I think he's a valuable asset on that line. I don't think he puts up the 20 goals or whatever it was he did last year, even with DeBrincat and Strome finding his stick. because DeBrincat does have an underrated playmaking ability, and I will die on that fucking hill. But Shaw has a place in that line. I don't think it's as bad as a mutant experiment that I thought it was going to be. It was almost a little bit Quinvillian, if that makes any sense, just to have him up in that top 6 role. But no, I kind of liked what I saw, and I really hope we can see more of that going forward. Did you guys have any thoughts about Shaw being in the top 6 right away?
I mean, I don't mind it. I think ideally, if the team's at its best, Andrew Shaw is a guy that you want in your bottom 6. But I mean, for right now, when nobody really stepped up to claim those top 6 winger spots, and for some reason, Carlton is set on having Saad, in the bottom 6. So that's part of it. But I think for right now, I think it's fine. I don't mind it. He's a guy that probably the most versatile forward in the lineup. He'll be all over the place. At some point this year, he'll be on the first line. He'll be on the second line. He'll be on the third line. He'll be on the fourth line. He'll be all over the place. So for right now, I don't mind it as a start. But I think ideally, best case scenario is somebody steps up to take that top 6 role, and then you can move him into the bottom 6 more consistently where I feel like he's better suited. But for right now, it's fine. I have no problems with it.
I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit and say that I actually really like Sa on the third line, just because there's a lot of NHL third lines out there that really aren't worth anything right now. And I mean, I saw a lot of good Brandon Saad in this last game. I really liked how he played. David Kampf couldn't win a faceoff, but to be honest, I feel like he's more capable than what he did just this last game. I think he went like 1 for 9 or something, just horrible. But he probably took way more faceoffs than that. I'm just messing up. I just remember it being a horribly negative metric. And I really like Saad on that left wing with Kampf and Kubalik, because it kind of does emulate the what you're going for in the top 6 minus a legit third line center, which I'm hoping we're going to get with Kirby Dach here soon, because a Saad, Dach, and Kubalik line is a lot of ass, it's a lot of power, and it's a lot of heavy shooting. So I'd like to see more of that in the future. But specifically on Brandon Saad, I like the way he bulldogged himself to the net on quite a few plays in this last game. And to be honest, I know he's kind of pegged as a guy who doesn't give 100% every shift or every game. But I think if there's a year that he turns a new corner, I think we even talked about this last week about him maybe being a breakout player.
I picked him as a breakout player. I guess my biggest thing with him in the bottom 6 is I'm just having a hard time talking myself into a guy making $6 million a year, playing third line minutes and not getting really any power play time. But I mean, if they're winning games, I really don't give a shit about that either. So
that's fair enough. Now we can get on to other matters concerning the defense, namely the numbers 2, 7, 68, and 56. But we'll start off with number 2. Not in the innuendo way. I mean, I guess you could say it was number 2 because Duncan Keith looked like straight up shit. So Tommy, I'll let you kick that one off.
My biggest thing with Duncan Keith had a terrible game, and again, we don't need to talk about this every time, but he's 35, 36, whatever he is, on a bad knee, coming off playing 30 minutes a night for the last decade. He's not prime Duncan Keith anymore. We all know that. He's not the guy that literally did not leave the ice in the 2015 playoffs. He's not that guy anymore. But I need to see some effort. Holy shit, dude. Please just act like you care out there for, an entire game. It's the effort for me. I do not feel like he's trying very hard. I don't feel like he gives a shit out there. And that one goal, the 4-on-4 goal that Crawford probably should have saved, he got walked around at the blue line. That can't happen. It can't happen under any circumstances. His effort, it needs to be there every night. His head cannot be as far up his ass as it was the other day in Prague.
Well, the thing is, it kind of spills over into what we were talking about earlier. If you do bring up a kid and you see Duncan Keith play that night in and night out, what the hell is the kid gonna think?
Right.
I just look at that one goal, and man, if it wasn't something I saw a lot of last year. I mean, there's one standout play Duncan Keith made last year, and that was the play in overtime where they're wearing the outdoor jerseys inside for some stupid reason. But It was versus Colorado in overtime where Duncan Keith beat Nathan McKinnon around the net, or to the net, excuse me, with the puck on his stick, and he actually just like barrel stuffed a goal into the net. He basically just willed it in, like no matter what. That was probably the highlight of Duncan Keith's year last year. That was, I don't know where it came from. I don't know if he just like decided to start giving a shit or something, or if like maybe the buffet line was getting too long. I have no idea, but like I guess I should reserve that joke for Seabrook because Duncan Keith is still like fit as fuck. But man, I do agree with you. There has to be more out of him because on that Konechny goal, he really didn't do anything more except just wave his stick at him. And that's really not something that's acceptable out of a 35 or 36-year-old veteran defenseman who just refuses to adjust for whatever reason.
Like, nobody expects him to be the best defenseman in the league anymore. I think we've all accepted the fact that those days are behind him, but like, I know he's still a good player. Like, he's not a bad player. I know he could still play. And it's just like you watch him out there and it's just like he can't be bothered to like do anything right sometimes. And it's so frustrating because like he's not bad. Like, I know he can still play, and it just, you don't see it out there too often anymore.
No, not anymore. Brent Seabrook, your worst defender on 5-on-5, posted a 32.26 share at even, or not at evens, on 5-on-5. That is just 5-on-5, which, I mean, he logged 17 minutes at 5-on-5, and boy, did he look like fucking garbage. I mean, that was the first time that he saw some real competition, since April, and he gets thrown out there with Mata, who actually didn't, look heinous, in my opinion. I think he was mostly like, he jumped in the play a couple times. He went to the net. He had a couple really good reads that I thought, I can see why the Blackhawks picked him up, but Oli Mata didn't offend me only because like he looked good by comparison to fucking Brent Seabrook. And when you're having to drag Brent Seabrook's ass around for an entire 60-minute game or however long you're out there, I mean, how good is that pairing really going to look? Because Brent Seabrook, it doesn't matter if you push the greatest shape of his life narrative, he still looks like he's got cement galoshes for skates.
He's bad. I think he got the contract, and almost instantly that year we saw him start to decline. And man, last year and this year, man, he's just been horrible. But I don't want to. I love Seabrook and I love Keith. I don't want to beat on them too much, but man, they're bad. And Keith is not a top pair defenseman anymore. And the thing is, Colleton doesn't really have a choice, because you're either throwing Keith out there for whatever it was, 25 minutes or 22 minutes, or you're throwing Ali Mata or Slater Kook. I mean, he doesn't have. Well, I tell you what, when I saw Slater Cuckoo paired with Duncan Keith, I wanted to throw up. I mean, that was ridiculous. Me and my girlfriend were watching the game. I looked at her and said, "You got to be shitting me."
Oh, man.
But I actually, here, I don't want to take it off the rails, but I have a question for both of you guys.
Go ahead. We're the worst show.
How long into the season does it take before Seabrook gets scratched?
Oh, man. I don't know if Carlton has the balls, man. Like, when was the last time we saw it happen? It happened last year, I think, when Quenneville was still here, right?
It was 2 years ago up in like Ottawa.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago Quenneville did it.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, if Quenneville has the balls to do it, I think Carlton will do it. I mean, I think it could happen, because I think Carlton already, I mean, since he took over, Seabrook's minutes have gone down a little bit. Like, he's not playing as much. He's getting more sheltered starts and all that. So I think he'll get scratched at some point this year, and it's unfortunate, because I've said many times I'm a big Brent Seabrook fan. I'll always be a Seabrook fan. I'll forever be grateful for everything he gave the Hawks in his prime. Same with Heath. But man, he doesn't have much of anything in his game anymore that you could sit and say that could help a team. I mean, he's more of a vocal leader for that locker room right now, and he provides more in the locker room than he can on the ice at this point.
I just,
go on. Sorry, I was about to sidetrack hardcore.
I just can't. Jeremy Colleton and Stan too, but the coaching staff cannot look everybody in the face and say, and this goes back to Boqvist, that they are giving the team the best chance to win with 7 on the ice instead of Boqvist, or I'll even throw Beaudin in there. I mean, Beaudin and Boqvist right now are miles ahead of Brent Seabrook.
I agree. I'm not so sure about Miles, especially concerning Beaudin, considering he hasn't seen NHL ice ever. But well, not ever, but you pretty much know what I mean. Like,
right.
Boqvist has got the skills to kind of prove his point. But no, I agree they are better than Seabrook, even if they have a grand total of 0 NHL games played at this point. You're absolutely correct. I honestly think if Brent Seabrook is going to get healthy scratch, one of the kids has got to come up first. So I guess to answer your question, if you do see a call up of some sort like that, and it could be Boqvist within the month, I don't know if that necessarily means Seabrook gets scratched. In an ideal world, it does, but I would say that is one of your better bets is one of Beaudin or Boqvist comes up and just straight up takes a spot.
I hope so. I want nothing more than a Calvin DeHaan and Adam Boqvist, either first or second pairing. That's all I want. I've been calling for that since.
Oh, fuck
June.
Yeah, if Boqvist does come up, you definitely need a more stay-at-home guy to kind of play free safety. Let him do his thing out there. Pinch in, jump up in the play, and he has that little free safety, back there to make sure that things don't go to shit pretty quickly with non-man rush the other way. But I mean, he should be up now, and we all know it. But like going back to Seabrook, I just think, and the sad thing is, like, I still think that there are things that he does do well. Like, I don't think his entire game is shit at this point. But when you can't skate and when your decision making is pretty poor, things are not going to go well out there, and it's just really tough to watch.
I did have a bit of a follow-up question, not to go too far back into the conversation. We can get through this really quick. But as far as Corey Crawford is concerned, what would you say ideal stat line for him would be? Because mine would be up there with a 240, 250 goals against average and like a 915 save percentage. Do you think that'd be fair?
I think that's fair. I think those are pretty ideal numbers. You obviously don't want to see that save percentage, dip down below, into the low 900. Right. So you need that you need that a little bit up there, and goals against, right there too. I think, I don't think I think he's pretty much the same goal he's always been, aside from the fact that he's come back from 2 concussions. Like, I don't see anything in his game where I'm like, he can't play anymore. Does that make sense? So I think,
right.
I don't think he hasn't played much the last 2 years, but watching him play, he doesn't look different to me. Like, he looks like the same Corey Crawford. He doesn't have as good of a defense from him.
He's never really relied on athleticism either.
Right.
He's just a really positionally sound goalie, and that's stuff that you learn. And I'm assuming he hasn't forgotten it.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm watching him play, and he looks like the same Corey Crawford he's always looked to me. So I think, I like the numbers you tossed out. I think those are totally fair. Obviously you don't want to see, you get below like a 9-10-ish or so in save percentage. Like, you don't want to see that. But my expectations for him are really not that different than they've ever been. I think he could still play. It's just the defense in front of him now is not very good. So he's going to face more shots. I mean, that's the biggest thing for me.
Clay, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. The one thing I'd say is the goals per game is, assuming the defense is what we all think it is, I think the save percentage might get inflated just based on the sheer number of shots.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
If he faces 40 to, I think the first game he had, I believe he faced 42 shots, I think. I'm pretty
sure they had almost like 70 fucking shot attempts too.
Yeah. Yep. But I mean, you got to think if he faces 42 and allows 3 goals, first of all, that's a hell of a night. And I mean, the save percentage just by virtue of that is going to be increased. And as with that, the goal per game might be too. But I think, like you guys said, I think Crawford's the same guy. I don't think the concussions have changed him that much. It's just he doesn't have, 4 stalwarts in front of him letting 20 shots a night in. That's it.
No, yeah, I agree. And this all being said, this is way more than likely. I'm assuming over 90% likely that this is the last season we see Corey Crawford as well. I know we kind of covered it last week, but as far as I'm concerned, this is the Corey Crawford farewell tour. So if you do get a chance to go see him play again, especially at United Center, please God, do yourself a favor and go do it, because Corey Crawford deserves nothing but love from the city of Chicago. I just wanted to touch on one more guy before we move into the questions, and that is Erik Gustafsson. I know it's kind of ridiculous to say that his trade value is diminishing after just one game, but holy shit, he was so bad. How can you look at that game and not only one, take him seriously, but then two, imagine that anybody is going to realistically think that he can put up the numbers that he did last year. I mean, you might be able to find somebody desperate for, like, a defender who could be a viable trade partner in, like, Winnipeg, for example. But
yeah, I was just going to say, looking at you, Winnipeg.
Exactly. What do you think the Hawks could really get for him at this point?
I mean, it's tough because it's so early. Like, it's early in the season. It's one game. You don't see too many trades this early, but like, I just have like a quick question. Are we all in agreement that he's only on the roster this year because of what he did for the power play last year? Like, are we in agreement that it's the only reason that he's back?
Is because of what he did for the power play? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, like, if the power play doesn't take off last year, he's playing somewhere else this year, 100%. So, what happens if he can't do the same thing for the power play this year? Then teams are going to say, okay, well, that was his one skill, was helping a power play, which honestly was literally just giving the puck to Kane and letting him, do 95% of the work. Let's be honest here. I don't, because he can't defend. He's a defenseman that can't defend. So if he's not putting up those power play points, like, what, he has no value at all. So I don't know what they can get. I think, like, last year everyone said, you could probably get, last year I forget who it was. I think it was the guy from The Athletic, Lazarus or Powers. I think they both of them were having a discussion on one of their podcasts I listened to, and I know Lazarus isn't everyone's favorite or whatever, but he said, I'm not trading Erik Gustafsson unless I can get a first-round pick. And I think that is an absurd ask. If I'm trading Erik Gustafsson, I'm not thinking like, wow, we need a first-round pick. Just give me something in return. I don't know what they can get, though, because I think it's entirely contingent on what he does for this power play this year. And I don't know the answer to that, because it was what they did last year at 40% or whatever was not sustainable. So
my pipe dream is that they ship him and Sekera off to Carolina for Brett Pesce, because I did a little bit of a deep dive into stats the other day, and when I was kind of forming like an ideal lineup of who I'd like to see Gustafsson potentially traded for, Carolina's Brett Pesce was some guy that kind of stuck out to me, because he's a nice right-handed shot. I'm pretty sure he's right-handed at least. But he also takes the majority of his starts in the defensive zone. He can put up 30, 35 points, and he also has positive possession numbers, and he's done this consistently throughout his career. I don't think that goes through at all, but if there was somebody I would specifically seek out and maybe, kick the tires on, I would say Brett Pesce is probably your guy, because he does bring, a decent amount of offense, but he also brings that smart, reliable defensive stability to this blue line that they desperately need, because, like we've been saying the whole podcast, if one of Murphy or Haan goes down, who are you seriously going to rely on to fill that gap?
Yeah,
the answer
I've got a name for you. And
sure.
I don't think it would be. I don't know if you could pry him away from Anaheim just on Gustafson, but Josh Manson is a dude that would look phenomenal in this blue line. He's like 6'4" and just a defense. He is the true defensive defenseman that, you know, I know it's a rarity now, but can actually play defense and at a high level. But
I know who you're talking about, and I know who that is, but I also just want a obligatory local guy alert. He is from Hinsdale, Illinois. I did not know that upon looking that up, but what I did want to ask you, didn't his old man play for the Hawks at some point? I want to say yes.
I believe so. I think so. I think he had a cup of coffee, I believe.
He played for the Chicago Blackhawks from 86-87 to 90-91. So yeah, that's a pretty good stretch of time.
Okay, yeah. That's longer than I thought, actually.
He's got a connection here. I actually kind of like that idea because, I mean, Anaheim, I actually think, is actually kind of a viable suitor. I think they want to make Manson something as sort of a captain one day in Anaheim because apparently he's another big locker room guy. He is 28 years old. That does kind of concern me like a little bit. I don't know what his contract looks like, so I can't say for sure whether I'd take it or leave it. But no, I really like where your head's at there. He is a big, scary right-handed defensive defenseman, and he's got that vocal leadership, all the intangibles that the coaches love. Local guy. I mean, I think that'd be actually a pretty perfect fit, especially if you're shipping off, you know, a Gustafson and a Secure as a sweetener. That might get it done.
Yeah. Well, and add to the fact that, oh God, no team needs scoring, especially from the back end, more than just throwing that out there too.
if you wanted to give your youth a kick in the ass, like I can't remember who all made the team for them this year, but if you really did want to give the Anaheim Ducks youth a kick in the ass, I'm pretty sure Eric Gustafson would be a really palatable option for them too. So yeah, that's actually a name I had considered, but I really like that idea. I think you're onto something there.
You guys are getting creative with these trades. Quite honestly, I'd take a draft pick for Gustafson, and I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would.
Oh yeah.
But again, it just depends. To me, again, it just depends on what is he going to do for this power play this year, because we know he can't defend. He's not going to help the defense in any way, shape, or form. That's been proven, well established. Nothing's changing there. He helped the power play. They were scoring at a 40% clip there for a little bit last year, completely
something crazy,
historically high, unsustainable numbers for a 1 or 2 month stretch there, and that's where his value came from. So to me, what happens with the power play these first couple months, by the trade deadline or whatever, because I think we're all in agreement he's not back next year.
No, if he won't be able to afford him anyway.
He won't be back for one of two reasons: A, he sucks this year on defense and on the power play, so they're not going to want him back, or B, he helps the power play enough to the point where they're not going to be able to afford him. So he's not back next year. So maybe he's a guy you look to trade, but to me, you're not getting a super valuable return unless he helps that power play again. But I mean, I would take a draft pick because I don't really have much use for him.
And honestly, whatever moves him out of the lineup and gets Boqvist up faster, I'm all for. So I'd honestly take a draft pick in a heartbeat as well.
Yeah, I just remembered, I mean, talking about last trade deadline, and this is going to make us all sick, but someone like Pittsburgh, what would they have given for it? I mean, I just want to remind you guys, Brian Boyle got a damn second-round pick from the Predators.
That's true. I really don't know.
What?
Hey, Ryan Hartman fetched a first-rounder.
Defenseman?
Oh yeah, Ryan. That first rounder is now Nicolas Baudin. So
right.
You can put that in your fucking pipe and smoke it.
That's why I don't understand why they didn't trade him last year. To me, last year that was his career year as far as offensive numbers goes. I don't really see another 60-point season, in the cards for him, based solely on the fact that a good chunk of those points came from when that power play was scoring at 40%. That's not happening again.
Agreed.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say it's not what he did in the power play last year. There's a good chance it's not duplicated. So his value last year is all-time high. And if you didn't want to trade him at the deadline because you were clinging to the fact that you were a bubble playoff team at that point, fine. I sort of understand that, but he could have been traded at the draft back in June, and you could have gotten something for him then. It's just frustrating. To me, it was just a no-brainer. Like, I don't care that he's got a good cap hit for the numbers he was putting up last year, because he's the defenseman that can't defend, and he was scoring on a power play that was quarterbacked by Patrick Kane. So it's just like, I don't know. They should have traded him last year. It's just frustrating.
Yeah,
Corey, you had a thought?
Yeah, I mean, here's if you're looking at it from the power play numbers, which, by the way, he did have 2 assists in game 1. So, but I just found that funny that we're all trashing him. But he did have 2 assists, and that's Eric Gustafsson's game. He's a train wreck in his own zone, but he'll give you 2 points. I mean, but the thing is, Adam Boqvist could do what he's doing.
Better.
I mean, he is carrying the puck into the zone, passing it to Patrick Kane, grabbing some popcorn and watching. And every once in a while, throwing a puck to the net. That is what he does on the power play. I
was just going to say, you see Adam Boqvist juggle a puck in midair behind the net, put it down cleanly on his stick, take a wide wraparound, and then pick a corner and snipe it. Which is nothing you will ever see Eric Gustafsson ever do. Maybe in his wet dreams he can do that, but there's no way you're ever going to see Eric Gustafsson in real life attempt and then complete that sort of task at all.
No, the skill differential between Eric Gustafsson and Adam Boqvist is the Grand Canyon is what it is. But
I agree.
I'm with you. I mean, I'm with you guys. I would take a draft pick for guy. I would take a 3rd round draft pick, or if they could get a 2nd off of a team that needs scoring out of their back end, a quote unquote contender, because his cap hit is not expensive. So teams that need scoring out of their back end that think they have a shot at the playoffs, I would think that'd be a pretty. I mean, I know he can't defend, but if you're just looking for a, 3rd pairing power play specialist, which teams with a solid top 4 can do, then I would think he'd have some suitors if what he did last year continues. But if not, then no.
I mean, it has precedence too, because you take a look at what Justin Schultz did for the Penguins in 2016 and 17. You look directly at him, it's the same thing. Or it could be the same thing, except Gustafsson's a little slower, but you don't need to mention that in negotiations. So I just wanted to wrap things up by moving on to questions. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, follow me.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to start off here from Hose Mad. Nice name. At Blue Star Boy 709. Thoughts on Dallas being 0-3 already and Winnipeg having nobody left to play defense? Got to think it bodes well for the Hawks if they can regroup on Thursday. I agree. Dallas being 0-3 is hilarious. I think that's actually something at least me and Tommy kind of expected, because I don't think either of us really bought the whole facade of Dallas whatsoever.
Where did the hype for them? I don't understand where the hype for them came from. They added Joe Pavelski. Okay,
Ben Bishop, who sucks, high key, is not good anymore in my opinion. Not really due to his
they've had him. This is his 2nd year in Dallas, right? So this offseason they added Pavelski and everyone okay. I mean, you were a 2nd round exit last year. You couldn't close out the Blues, but we don't really need to talk about that because fuck last year. But they added Joe Pavelski, good addition, but
Corey Perry.
Yeah, not so great addition. So I think they're good enough for a wild card spot maybe, but I never really understood the hype. So I'm not stunned to see them start 0-3 or anything like that. That doesn't surprise me.
And as far as Winnipeg goes, we kind of talked about this for a large chunk of the podcast, but they're a trade suitor. Stan Bowman, please, for the love of God, make a call. Clay, do you have any thoughts on Winnipeg or Dallas?
I think the Dallas hype train started when they beat Nashville, who, by the way, Nashville last year was completely and totally overrated. They couldn't score on the power play, and when you can't score on the power play in the playoffs, you do not score very often. It is so hard to score 5-on-5, and quite frankly, they couldn't do it. So that's why Dallas had the upper hand. And that's where the hype came from. They have a good tandem in goal, but I don't think they're as good as everybody thinks they are. And quite frankly, Jamie Ben's getting older and he's not getting better. And other than Tyler Seguin, right? And other than Tyler Seguin, I mean, they got Pavelski, but he's also 35 or 36. I don't see where their scoring's coming from. Yeah, I don't see where their scoring's coming from. Other than, obviously, Tyler Seguin's, a star, but other than him, I'm not sure I see where their scoring's coming from.
Yeah, they remind me a lot of Colorado as far as that goes.
They kind of do.
The one line kind of, the top lines carry, and if they're not producing, you don't see much. But yeah, I agree with you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was just going to say Colorado's depth has kind of fleshed out at least a little bit for them. But go on.
As far as Colorado goes, Nazem Kadri will be the pickup that is a perfect pickup for them because they have a plus defense. Not to get off track, but they have a plus defense. They needed a second line center, and Nazem Kadri would be perfect if he can, not break his stick over a dude's head again.
At least not in the playoffs. He's good at drawing penalties at least.
Yeah. But, not to get too off track, but
go on.
Somebody, I don't remember which one of you mentioned the Dallas goaltending tandem. Like, Hudobin as a backup. Like, if the Sharks are not on the phone trying to get him or somebody of his caliber to start in net for them, like right now, I don't know what they're doing because holy shit, is Martin Jones fucking suck.
Martin Jones is so bad. Holy cow.
It was 3-0. In the off chance that you're listening to this, I'm sorry, man. Or regular, everyday, normal guy, my guy, dude, I feel sorry for both of you for having to watch that night in and night out because they're big Sharks fans, I'm pretty sure. And holy hell, I don't know how they do it.
Did you see the stat on Martin Jones? He's allowed the first shot on goal of the season to go in on him for the last 5 years. Like, for the last 5 years, the first shot you face beat you for a goal. That is unbelievable.
It's consistency, my friend.
They are not getting past Vegas, and they are not. I don't know that they'll get to the play. I think Vancouver. That they may surprise some people, but even if San Jose finishes in the 3 spot, I don't care if it's Calgary and I don't care if it's Vegas. They're not getting past either of with Martin Jones in the goal.
That team is pretty much just a bunch of over the hill fucking mouth breathers, a bunch of European imports who are undrafted, and then Erik Karlsson.
Yep, that's
the Sharks. I don't think there's a way they make the playoffs this year.
I got them in the playoffs, but I don't see them going anywhere.
Like even if they do, I'm positive they'll just get absolutely sack punched by whoever they face. That's what I'm convinced of. Moving on to the next question. This is aimed directly at you, Tommy. What do you think of Wainwright inevitably throwing a complete game shutout in Game 7 of the NLCS?
Ah, fuck. Yeah, I'm already mentally preparing myself for that. So.
That was from Scott at Midwest Ope.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah.
Yeah, I know he likes having fun with you, but that is a very real possibility, which is kind of the scary part.
Cardinals and their devil magic, man. It doesn't stop. It does not stop.
From Wally Maz at WallMaz35. Which pair was the best on defense? Hilariously, I thought it was Mater and Seabrook because they're solid defensively. Fine. I mean, nobody looked really that good, so I'll give you that. The rest of the defense is pretty bad. Yeah, I agree
for the fact that everyone fucking sucked, I would agree. Seabrook and Mater was the best of the worst, I guess, for lack of a better word. I mean,
exactly. If Seabrook and Mater are performing your best on your blue line, then holy shit, you've got some stuff to figure out, man.
Oli Mater, I thought was generally okay. He didn't piss me off. I think I see what they're going for, and if he could find even a little bit of his game from those 2 cup runs, I would be thrilled. He had one play the other day where he tried to move the puck all the way up the ice. It was just like, holy shit, dude, like dump it in, pass it, do something. Like, you can't fucking skate, like stop. But like generally I thought he had a not terrible game, which was a little bit encouraging. But yeah, I mean, best of the worst pair right there. I mean, it was nothing to brag about for sure.
Especially on the bottom pair where we have seen the likes of, Carl Dahlstrom, Slater Cuckoo, Brandon Manning, and the like. I mean, not terrible is kind of what we're aiming for at this point, as sad as it sounds.
It's a very low bar we're setting for ourselves.
Exactly. Clay, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as defensive pairings go, I guess they're the tallest midget. I mean, that's kind of what I would
Is that a
go
short
with.
joke? We're making short jokes on this.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if you know this here, but Tommy's 5'4", so you might want to watch what you say.
Oh, my bad.
No, I'm just messing with you, dude.
We have fun here.
Yeah, I mean, but in all seriousness, they looked okay. I mean, I would like to see a Mata Murphy pairing. I think that would be a lot better. But as far as that game goes, yeah, that would be my pair. But like I said, it's by default.
I agree. So I wanted to get to this question from Brett at CubbyBlue97. Does Corey Crawford get benched if he struggles on Thursday? A collective 1, 2, 3. No,
not happening.
So I guess it also kind of depends on what benched you're talking about. Like, it's pulled, maybe. Like, if he's off to a horrible start, then maybe he gets pulled. But like, benched for a stretch of time, no, absolutely not.
Well, and the thing is too, is like I'm gonna need way more than an okay game, and then I mean, hypothetically speaking, for the purposes of this question, a bad game to say he's not gonna be playing as much anymore. Like, I think we're all in agreement that the goalie split, providing everyone stays healthy and nobody just really fucking sucks, it's going to be pretty close to a 50-50 split this year. So I don't really see anybody getting benched per se at all this season, because I think it's going to be pretty even.
Yeah, I agree.
I do think as far as the goalie split goes, I think you're right. I think it'll be 50-50. But I do think if, let's say, Leonard gets hot, I think they ride the hot hand, and then when Crawford gets hot, vice versa.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be 50-50. But I don't know that it'll be 50-50 in the fact of,
essentially rotating.
Starts.
Right.
It'll just kind of average itself out.
Right.
Right, okay. Exactly.
Fair enough. From James Hicks III, which is a cool name, at JD Hicks 88 says, when Calvin DeHaan does come back, who does he get paired with? I think we kind of agreed on Murphy, but I also wouldn't mind see him play with Keith, just because I heard he can play on his offside. I don't know if that is, viable at all. But if you guys have any other thoughts.
He played on his offside in Carolina in their playoff run. He actually played with Pesci, I believe.
Really?
I believe Pesci is a left. Yes, Pesci is a left shot, and so is he, I believe. So
he is a left shot. Okay, well, maybe I was wrong then. But
yeah, I think he starts with Murphy. I think he starts with Murphy. I think we're all in agreement on that. But I mean, there's going to be so much shuffling this year. I think everyone's going to play with everybody at some point in time throughout the season. If he could play his offside, that would actually add to the Jalmerson comparison. So that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, I think Keith, that'd be a decent pairing. I think he starts with Murphy, though. I think we're looking the majority of the time with Murphy, but it's going to be a mix and match all season. They're not good enough to have set pairs. It just is what it is.
Okay, so this is from Nick S or Nick's. I'm assuming it's Nick S. Nick X. Oh shit. Nick S Blackhawks talk. At talk Nick S. I think. Corey Crawford played. Yeah, sure. Corey Crawford played well, but on 2 of the 4 goals he allowed were probably goals he would have wanted back. Does Robin Leonard get the net in the home opener on Thursday? Another collective 1, 2, 3. No. Okay, we can at least all. Do we need to expand on that at all? I mean, do you have a thought?
I mean, I'm assuming the 2 goals he's talking about would be the 4-on-4 goal where the backhander went over his shoulder. Again, the concern for me there is Keith got walked around on the blue line, and that to me, that can't happen. That shot never happens if Keith is defending properly. That goal never happens, and I'm assuming the second goal he's talking about is the wraparound where I'm not even sure what happened. Like, I think Crawford might have just lost track of the puck, because he didn't even look like he was facing the right way when the puck was coming towards him, and then it got wrapped around. I'm assuming that's the goal he's talking about. But like we touched on earlier, he made a lot of saves that arguably should have been goals, so I'm not going to sweat too much about 2, I don't know, soft goals, for lack of a better word. He's starting the home opener. I mean, he absolutely should start the home opener at this point. for what he's done for the franchise.
It's gotta be his last home opener.
Right. He's starting the home opener. I don't really give a shit that he gave up 2 goals that people didn't necessarily like the other day because he made some great saves. And the bigger concern for me is the defense.
He kept him in the game.
Right. Yeah. I think Crawford will get the home opener. And Leonard will get the 3rd game of the season, whenever that is. Not really sure, but Crawford's getting the home opener. It's not. I don't even think it's a question. I think it's already been decided.
I would hope so. I wouldn't think that. I think out of respect to Crawford, you have to do that. I know there's.
Yeah.
It's pro sports. There's no feelings, but I think Crawford's earned the right to play himself out of the net more than have somebody else play himself into it.
Right. That's a great point. Yeah.
Also, hey. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go on. Finish your thought.
I was just gonna say I stat checked, and it was Brett Pesce is a right-handed shot. It's Jacob Slavin that Haan played with. So I just wanted to.
In our prospect pool.
I just wanted to tell you. Yeah, you were right. It was Slavin that was the left shot that Haan played on his offhand with.
Imagine being wrong. Couldn't be me. No. No, thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate that. I could have sworn he was a right-handed shot, but I honestly couldn't. I didn't know. Although Slavin is a guy I would love on this team, but there's no way Carolina would ever give him up.
That would be.
Is he captain? I'm pretty sure he's captain.
Stahl is captain this year.
Yeah, they gave it to Stahl.
Okay, so he's an alternate captain, but still, he's on their hierarchy. But
Oh yeah.
No, yeah, I have the feeling if Carlton did have the cojones to go out and fucking scratch Corey Crawford for his last home opener, if you scratch Corey Crawford for the last home opener, then you definitely have to sack up and scratch Brent Seabrook at some point.
Oh, yeah, yes. You're not. Yeah, like Clay said, he's playing himself out of the net before someone's playing their way in. He's earned it for what he's done for the team, for what he's done for the city. He's starting Thursday. He could have given up 10 goals in fucking Prague the other day, and he would have started for me Thursday night. So to me, it's not even. It's a no-brainer.
I agree. And then the last question is for the man, myth, legend, soon to be a guest on this podcast one day, Adam Hess, @_Adam Hess, is what are the Blackhawks going to get in exchange for Brandon Saad when they're out of it by Christmas and start the teardown? And the answer is the only viable one, Artemi Panarin. Just come full circle. Just fucking do it. Just cat be damned. Make that son of a bitch work. That'd be fucking hilarious. I'd love that.
Yeah, that'd be something.
That's my very non-serious answer, just because to be honest, I don't really want to think about Brandon Saad getting traded again. It broke my heart the first time, and I love him a lot.
Yeah, okay, I'll take a shot at being somewhat serious. I guess my answer is I don't know, because we're assuming that they're out of contention by Christmas, which I don't. I'm sorry. I know I'm probably the most optimistic one here. I just don't see that being the case. But he has value. Even at $6 million a year, that's a pretty good price tag. And I think there's the season plus 2 more on the deal. I think, if I remember correctly.
Sure.
He brings value. He's a power forward in today's game. He's got explosive speed. He'll drive the net. He can help a lot of teams. But it's just such a tough question to answer, because it's like I don't see it even. Like I never even considered Brandon Saad being traded, I guess. But I think you can get a nice prospect for him, like a top end prospect and decent pick, maybe. I don't think that's unrealistic.
Yeah, it might have to be one of those prospect that is kind of falls under the needs change of scenery sort of thing, like a Nylander or Strome. But I feel like I'd be up there with you.
But Brandon Saad's still young too. Like, if things do go to shit by Christmas, like, is Brandon Saad a guy you're looking to unload? Like, to me, that's still a guy that you're trying to somewhat build around. Yeah,
and it's not like he's really all that expendable either. You just got DeBrincat on a hell of a deal, of a deal.
And we haven't even talked about that. How the fuck did that happen?
I don't know, but it really doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be really summed up into anything
it's
other
a
than
consensus great deal.
Oh my god, he is awesome, and I love that kid more than
he's got to fire his agent.
Absolutely not. keep him around. Please, God. give him fucking like 8x7 for the next extension, please, God, just do it. Oh, that'd be so good and make my heart sing. I mean, other than that, Clay, do you have any thoughts on Brandon Saad?
I'm with you guys. I don't want to see him traded. I don't want to think about it. Brandon Saad, if nothing else, for his performance in 2015, has my heart. So, I in the playoffs, that is. I don't know. A realistic package, I think it's got to be, if we're talking picks, it's got to be, I would think, a first. I mean, Matt Duchene got a first, second, and a third. I know he's a center, but
if Ryan Hartman can fetch a first rounder, Brandon Saad can fetch a fucking first round pick.
Now,
especially at the deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, prospect-wise, it depends on what, obviously what position you're looking for, but, I would think it's got to be, I would say, a first-round pick plus a pretty decent prospect. I mean, it obviously depends on what team you're coming from, but a former late first, early second round pick with high potential would be, plus a first round. I mean, he scored 24 goals last year. It's not like he was.
Yeah, he flew under the radar last
garbage.
Year.
Yeah, exactly.
People are just. I think the perception of him has changed just a little bit because they traded Panarin for him, and then his first season back didn't go so hot. Brandon Saad's a valuable player. Brandon Saad's a player you want on a winning team. Brandon Saad's a player you need on a winning team, quite frankly. So, to me, even if you're, I want Brandon Saad on this team for the rest of his career, quite honestly.
His stats aren't all that inflated either because he's never going to be an assist guy.
Right.
No. Nope. Well, here's the thing. If you're in the playoffs, you have to have not one Brandon Saad, but probably 2 or 3 on your team to have a shot.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, our last successful playoff season, Patrick Sharp, two-way forward. Hossa, Slovakian god. Brandon Saad, two-way forward. I mean, those 3 were our big, they're all over 6 foot. They all play an extreme power forward, two-way game. Sharpie, a little bit more of a east-west can shoot, but he played the two-way game. He wasn't a pushover.
Well, to your point,
you need those 3.
To your point, we do have Brandon Saad, like you said, but also if Doc and Kubala can evolve into what they want them to be, I mean, there's 3 right there.
Yep. Bingo.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, at least we're on the same page there. You guys got any final thoughts?
A quick question. I know the first game sucked, but I saw a lot of people writing articles and kind of freaking out, like, holy shit, this is the same team from last year. Like, is that something that even crossed your guys' mind? Like, yeah, it was a bad first game. I expected more, but I'm still excited about the outlook of this team going forward. It didn't really change much for me.
I'm still excited, but I will say I'm frightened to hell that a lot of the problems from last year have lingered over into this year, if that makes sense.
That's fair. I guess I just need more than a 1-game sample size, but yeah, I mean, I would agree with. But I'm still excited about this team. I still, for the most part, like the roster, aside from the defense that we've talked about so much, but I saw a lot of panic and I think a little bit of overreaction after they lost the opening game, and I just chill out a little bit. I still like this team a lot.
I agree. I think reading some of those articles from the beat reporter, hell, you'd think they were covering the Toronto Maple Leafs or something. I mean, good grief. But I think,
good point.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, anybody who came into this season expecting a cup contender was going in blind. I mean, let's just be real.
Yeah.
My prediction was they flirt with the 3 seed or a wild card. I mean, that's what I project. If they win around, great. I could see them, upsetting a team in the first round, but I don't expect a Western Conference Finals. I mean,
right.
If we get into the playoffs, get the kids some playoff experience, I'm happy.
Exactly.
So no, now I will say I am like you. I'm kind of petrified that with what I saw that's not great. But it's game 1 on horrible ice. The overreaction was a bit overkill, and I mean, yeah, like I said, it felt like I was in Toronto.
I like that. I think we can end on that note too. So for everybody, I am Daniel at @DeBrinket_Haver and Tommy at _88 Showtime and Clay Swallow at CB Swallow _52. I think I got that right. This has been the One for the Dagger podcast, and you all have a good rest of your day, night, whatever time you're listening to this, and go Hawks.